Hey y'all, welcome to the next live stream. A few updates, and then we're going to drink some tea. So put in the comments below what teas you're drinking. It is Saturday morning, January 28th. So it's been a little while since I went live, so apologize for that. It's been a busy start to the new year. Happy Chinese New Year to everyone. This is going to be an exciting year. So a few updates. I've been starting to purchase more and more antiques using like OfferUp and eBay, so things to look out there if you want to do the same. Also, Saki sent me one of these to see if I wanted to review it, which is actually Turkish tea maker. They make this tea very popular all across the world, even here in America. But essentially you boil water, you put the tea leaves on top, and then you let it brew for 20 minutes or so. So they sent out, test it out to see if I wanted to do another video, how-to video. Not sure if we're going to continue to work together on that, but that was a cool experiment. Maybe I'll have a separate video about Turkish tea, because I want to learn more about it now. It's just a type of tea I've never explored really. Totally different than anything else. So, put this one down here. Today, I will be drinking a tea from an area that I don't believe I've drunken tea before, called Nuo Tea Mountains in Yunnan. So if any of you have drunken tea from that mountain, let me know, because that's what we'll be drinking today. And yeah, it's exciting. I have a little kitty here today, making lots of noisy. So eBay. So these are some of the items I picked up from eBay. eBay's a dangerous place, be careful. So, antiques. Same concept with the Yixing tea video. You don't want to look for pristine, perfectly crafted, perfectly painted antiques. It's very likely that those will not be authentic, or it's a higher risk because we're paying a lot of money for something that looks very high-end that may not indeed actually be old. So I was looking for mass-produced. I came across these. These are nothing really special. These are spice jars. And there was a seller selling like 2 or 3 of them, and I just messaged and said, hey, can you take a lower offer and put them both in the same box, save on shipping. And these are perfect for mini tea jars. So I put some tea in there. So you keep a lookout for something like that, spice jars that are probably mass-produced 1980s, 90s, maybe even 70s. Pretty generic pattern, pretty mass-produced pattern on the outside. But it's an antique, it's porcelain, and you can store tea in it. So I got those for under $8 a piece, so pretty cool. If you think about if I'm going to buy a tea storage jar today at that size, that kind of has a theme to it, from porcelain, no way it's going to be under 20 bucks, right? These are also mass-produced, probably, I don't know, 1980s, maybe 90s, maybe 70s, somewhere in that realm. And I just really like that floral, multicolored pattern that was produced out of China in that time period. And these are actually quite nice, thin dishes. Probably not really an original tea accessory, but you can use it to showcase tea, you can leave it on your table, etc. And I got those for I think maybe $7 or $6 a piece. So you can definitely still find some cool stuff out there. Here, I had a few of these older cups before. I had one that broke that I really liked. And these are a little different. These are definitely old, but the color is really vibrant and strong orange. And my other one was more of a dull orange. Also, the other one I had was a larger cup. So my implication is maybe these aren't as old. I'm not sure. And there was just a set of 4. I got 4 of these for $40, I think. Plus you had to get the shipping, etc. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can check out. So browse around, be really careful. Don't try to find perfectly crafted antiques. Look for something that's a little bit, mass-produced, not of perfect shape or quality, and you're probably going to have better luck than trying to find the ultimate antique and potentially risking a lot of money on something that could be fake. So whenever you buy antiques, just look at it and say, if this was fake and I paid this price, would I still enjoy what I'm buying? And if it's yes, then go ahead and buy it, and you're not going to have buyer's regret when you do find out it is fake. Like with these spice jars, it's $8. So I like the design. It stores tea. I don't care if they're from 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, or 2000s. It's irrelevant because it's an affordable price and I like the product and it has a good atmosphere to my tea table. So whenever you purchase antiques, kind of go in it with that mindset. Don't go into that mindset, I'm buying it because it's old, because you're going to set yourself up for disappointment the majority of the time. Alrighty, so we are going to do a pretty simple method here. This is pretty exciting because I haven't tried a famous tea in a very long time. I guess that's not true. I drank Lao Manila yesterday, raw, which I'm usually not a big fan of. But me and my wife were just kind of feeling a little down. We needed a picker-upper throughout the day. Long week, Friday, right? And I took maybe a gram of Lao Manila and I put it into a cup. And I used that technique, which I'm going to share with you all on YouTube pretty soon. But basically, you put boiling water into a cup about 2/3 of the way up with the tea. Let it sit there for 30-45 seconds. Then pour in a little bit of room temperature water to stop the brewing process. And then I just sipped on it. It still is a little bit on the stronger side, but when I brewed it that way, it wasn't as bitter and aggressive and dry. And when I got down towards the end of the cup, when I smelled the inside of the cup, it just smelled like orchids. So if you haven't revisited the Lao Manila Raw in a while, I'd recommend checking it out and making it the cup style. You might be pleasantly surprised. Alrighty, let's do this. Oh, would you look at that? This is what happens when you get so busy. I'm sure all of you can relate. So excited to think you prepared everything for your tea setup. You have tea in your teapot from the previous day. This actually might be pretty good tea, so I'll probably drink some of it before I move on. Wake up my palate. Oh, I think this is jade leaves. Because yesterday I only did 1 or 2 infusions of this. Also, if you haven't checked it out already, I did a full review on these sake kettles. I quite like them. That's on my channel if you want to check it out. Another thing we stumbled on, I don't know if it's tea related, but maybe it could be tea related, is Lego, of all people, which I'll have a link in below. They produced botanicals, flowers, made out of Legos. And so my wife and I purchased a box and made it. It was quite fun. But then I started to think, oh my goodness, this is so creative and fun. Maybe not all the time, but once in a while, you have like a little Lego flower as to go on your tea table area. Alrighty. How many of you all home make tea in a similar way? Teapot only and teacup. You obviously need a bigger teacup. But I do this a lot now when I'm drinking tea by myself. So this is the 2021 Nuo Raw Pour from Danone. They didn't have a lot of famous mountains that year, but this was one of them. That's tasty. So all I'm doing is just reheating that teapot real hot. So I want that teapot as hot as I can get it. So when I put in the dry leaves, I can let it sit there for a minute or so and then smell the aroma. I'm probably only going to use about 1.5 grams since I am drinking this tea by myself. Also, if you kind of do everything right, it all sorts itself out pretty well. Heating up the teapot, adding in new fresh water, let it reboil. It takes time, obviously. Put the tea in the teapot, wait for a minute for it to start to absorb and produce that aroma. Appreciate the aroma. When I'm done with all that, my water will be at a boil again. Wow. It's just more, what is that word? Very comfortable, of course. Ancient Arbor Pour Tea. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It's more on the, I feel like it's more on the warm side. It's a weird way to describe an aroma. This reminds me of like spring. So first infusion, going to use a boiling temperature. If you all watching now, drop in the comments below what teas you're drinking. The one downside of 1 teapot, 1 cup, unless you're drinking fast, is sometimes you miss that beautiful aroma in the pitcher, especially with a nice tea like this. That's such an enjoyable part of the experience. That's why it's particularly important that if you do this method like this, casual style, more focused, is make sure your cup is made of porcelain, and the older the better, because they tend to do a slightly better job at preserving the aroma, so you can still appreciate it after you drink it. So if you're doing a session like this, you've drunk it a few times, you're not really getting that aroma left in the cup, next time just switch your cup up. Try it with a different cup. Stoneware cups do not do so well with raw pour. They just don't keep the aroma as well. So look for a porcelain cup. this. It's so funny how important the details are with a raw pour. There's so many times throughout the week that I'm in a rush, where I'm just like doing multiple infusions into a larger cup to go, and the tea tastes slightly dry, or I don't get those aromatic qualities. And when you sit down, you can avoid most of that, because letting the tea rest in between without the lid on, I keep reminding everyone about this, but it makes such a huge difference. The tea needs to rest and slow down. I also got a very interesting question, which I've never really heard before, was instead of removing the lid and letting the tea leaves cool down in between infusions, could I just flush the tea with like ice cold water? So definitely don't recommend that, but it was interesting to think about that, because it's not so much you're trying to control the temperature or cool down the tea leaves, because if you do ice cold water, you're just going to dilute the tea more. You're also going to shock the tea, which will probably not be good. Tea is a natural kind of a live thing, so you kind of want to let it do its thing. The reason you want it to cool down is you want the tea to breathe, relax, so it doesn't stay shocked at that higher temperature. And it's also the same thing with water. You don't want to leave the tea in the water too long, or it can become uncomfortable in the stomach when you drink it. So it's always very important that you keep your brew times short and the time in between your infusions a little bit longer. We can also talk about the first infusion. You also will notice I drink the first infusion of a lot of my pour teas. However, I would never recommend someone do that unless they truly trust the source of the tea. If I don't know the source, I'm gifted a tea, I go to a tea shop, I purchase an unknown brand or tea of pour, I will always wash that, sometimes twice, before drinking. Because we don't really know where these teas are being produced unless you've actually seen the factory in person, and if you have, then maybe that would encourage you to wash these teas. So it's very important that on pour tea, you always wash that first infusion. However, if you can get fortunate or lucky enough to get very, very high quality, clean pour, which is very difficult, other types of teas we notice we don't always do a wash. Green, white, black, oolong, etc. Because sometimes the first infusion is so unique. It's so sweet, it's so light. And with pour from old tea trees, the first infusion almost is like someone put sugar in there. It's just so sweet. The tea hasn't really opened up to become its full body yet. So you're not going to get that really full body aroma and lingering sweetness. But the initial taste profile is very sweet, very tasty. So it's something to explore and learn more about if you have the opportunity to drink really good quality, clean, old tree raw pour. It's also why I'm so particular in the brands of tea I drink, because you don't need much of a margin of error for something not to be clean or not of big quality, but it can be very difficult to tell the difference. So with all these years after I've stumbled on a particular product or brand that brought extreme consistency, and every time I varied out and done something else, I've always regretted it. So that's why I'm kind of strict in where and how I get my pour tea, which I'm quite comfortable with, because I've sacrificed mass variety and new experiences every month and replaced that with a very consistent, enjoyable, high quality experience every time I drink pour. So everyone has their own approach to doing it. That's how I like to approach it. This is tasty. It's gonna sound weird, like wheat, hay, oat, but very sweet version of those. Very tasty. Yeah, this kettle I've liked a lot. This is just the top portion pours so well. It is funny. After I made that small video about the review video, Saki reached out and they said their design team might make some changes. I don't know what that means. Maybe to the base or something. Because this, everyone's really happy with at the top. This portion too is just so smart. Venting on the side. Love it. Now I have so many kettles, my goodness. What am I going to do with them all? So this can't do a boil. I'm not going to use a boil on the second infusion. You're going to let that water calm down. Basically, I'm going to wait for those bubbles to stop bubbling. Also, I was looking for folks that can do kintsugi, if I'm saying that right. That's the act of repairing ceramics. And I was going to go to Japan in July, and I had a friend there, and I asked him about it. He said it's quite common over there. People get all kinds of things repaired, because why not repair something that you have so you don't waste it, throw it away, rather than buying something new. He said, why don't you look at some folks maybe in the U.S.? I don't think I've ever done a real search for somewhere in the U.S. to do kintsugi. But my concern was maybe they don't do it full time, maybe it's a hobby, so, and maybe they aren't so good, maybe it'll be more expensive. But then I found this gentleman in Kansas, JM, I forgot his name, they have an Instagram, JM Craft Store, I think, is the website. And him and his wife kind of run this on the side, and all he does is kintsugi. And from his Instagram, it looks quite good. I mean, obviously you have to mail it to Kansas and back. But for some particular teawares, it might make sense. So I'm actually going to have teaware shipped to him to test it out, a teapot, get some gold kintsugi, see how it goes, and then when it goes, of course, I'll be happy to make a video and share that experience. But here's a huge queue, 6 to 8 months to repair that. So maybe I should send a few pieces. It's quite affordable. You're looking between the $100 to $200 range, depending on the size of the piece, of the cracks. Something small like this, we're looking at like $100 to repair. And it's so interesting. Usually you want to take a string and you measure the size of the cracks perfectly up to the crack. Measure the string, do the next hairline crack or indentation, etc. And then you just mail those exact dimensions to him, and then he can give you an estimated quote based on how much materials he's going to need. And that's how they do the estimates on kintsugi. So I thought I'd just send a photo. But then he replied back and said, can you take a string, measure the lines of all the cracks, and then let me know those dimensions, and then give a clear estimate. Obviously, once they receive the items, they're going to need to give an update estimate. But yeah, that's very interesting. The art of kintsugi, a whole different type of business model. Famous Mountain is just so too excited for tea. Famous Mountain is just so different. When you're drinking teas like Enchanting Beauty, Jade Leaves, Zanfeng, and then you drink a Famous Mountain, clear difference. It's funny, as I transition to this new career, lifestyle has changed a lot. Before, I'd spend maybe 4 to 5 hours drinking tea like this, and I didn't really appreciate the moment of silence. You probably all remember I would always say, oh, drink a cup of tea, get away from the hectic, stressful lifestyle of our lives. That's so important now. Because some of the few times I really sit like this calmly without, a phone in my hand or something, is sometimes when I do these live streams or I have tea with my wife. And the busier you are, it feels like time just really flies by. And I was also listening to a podcast by Simon Sinek. I think that was with, what was that name? He was the founder of Icon Capital. And he was talking about stimulation. Everyone is so stimulated all the time that sometimes you just need a moment to not be stimulated. And he was saying a lot of people that are very high productive, high performance people in this world, when they transition into retirement, they have like an identity crisis because their whole identity was running that company or being busy, etc. And the importance of boredom, like just get a cup of tea or coffee and go sit in a park on a bench for 30 minutes to an hour and like block that out on your schedule. And that's so important. And I do that with tea. That's like me sitting down in a park on a bench is when I just drink tea like this. Because it allows you to think differently, it allows you to be comfortable being alone, it allows you to comfortable just think about things. And you can start to slowly process the week without being directly stimulated. And that might actually be a healthy thing to do every once in a while. Where before, my life was so slow-based and simple that I almost did need more stimulus. Education, books, some kind of material, because we're always craving information. And so now that my life is more just like reading and digesting information and running client meetings and learning about taxes, when I sit down and drink tea, it's so much more impactful and powerful, and it really does feel like a healing experience. So remember that. Take some time just to do nothing, and that's okay. It's good. Obviously, don't do it all the time because you're not going to get anywhere in life, but if you have a pretty busy life, just get pretty stressed out, take it 30 minutes to an hour. Just drink tea like this. Don't even watch anything. Don't have your phone up, don't have a computer up. Just sit with tea, maybe another colleague or so. Make sure everyone's phones are put away. It's not like anti-technology or anything. It's just in that moment. It's good to have a few hours in the day that's just human interaction or just simply doing one simple activity. Very beneficial to the health, to the mind, to the thinking, productivity, everything. This is good. This isn't leaving a lasting impact like some of the previous famous mountains, like Jingmai, Bulong, Nano. I remember those teas being overwhelmingly sweet, aromatic, so tasty. This one's a little bit more subtle, and this might be similar to some of the teas. Like I know Nano takes a long time before it really wakes up and becomes its true self. And maybe this particular mountain is that same way. Also, y'all that have Zanfeng Raw, I strongly recommend you revisit that tea a few times, brewed in a gaiwan, brewed in a teapot. Really pay attention to the aroma. My goodness. It's starting to show itself, and I think the Zanfeng 2022, is it 2022? 2022 production. It's probably some of the best factory tea that's been produced. I'm not just saying that because I really spent more and more time. I used to only like the ripe, Zanfeng ripe, but I'm starting to spend more time with the raw. Just really reminds me of Oolong in some ways. Alrighty, y'all. I'm gonna do one more infusion here. Do a little higher temperature. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below now. As always, you can always suggest future topics for our videos in the comments below. This tea is quite expensive. The real question is, would I rather drink this or Zanfeng raw? It is calm though. It is much more comfortable throughout the body. It's just so subtle. Also less dry than some of the poor teas I've been drinking recently. Oh, another quick story before I wrap up today is I went to go see a mentor of mine, and I hadn't met him in person. Welcome to the virtual world. But I've been working with him for a year. First time I met him in person was yesterday. So I was like, oh, I want to make him tea. Because he knew I'm crazy about tea. So I'm like, I want to make him a good cup of tea. And it's funny, because all this thought process went through my mind. Okay, maybe I'll bring like a little tea jar and bring a super famous mountain tea, and then bring my cups, my teapot, and then I was like, wait, what am I doing? That never turns out well. Him and his family know nothing about tea, right? They never have seen these small teapots or teacups. They just drink like herbal tea at night. So to bring all that over would be a shock. You probably all remember my video, sharing tea. You also hype it up and have a high expectation, most likely for everyone to feel underwhelmed. So I immediately remembered that, and I said, I'm not doing that. For sure I know I should not do that. And I just got 2 packets, Zanfeng raw, Zanfeng ripe, 8 grams each. Put in a packet. Arrived at his house, said, hey, I want to make tea for you and your family. I didn't even bring cups. I said, do you have teacups? Whatever teacups he gave me, which were big old mugs, that's what I'm using. That's familiar to them. And I said, does your body usually run hot or cold? He's like, that's a bizarre question. The reason I asked that is if they run more cold, I'm giving them ripe. If they run more warm or hot, I'll give them raw. He said, well, I think we're more on the cold side. I said, great. Put 2 grams of ripe pour in the 4 mugs, boiled some water in whatever kettle they use, poured it into the mugs all the way up almost, waited, chatted with them a little bit more, grabbed some more hot water, poured it in the top of those mugs because you need to store up the ripe tea as it starts to brew. So we let it sit there for a minute. It's going to be a little darker on the bottom. So added a little bit more, got that all brewed together, handed a mug to each one of them. I said, just let it sit, enjoy. They said, what kind of tea is this? I said, it's ripe pour from Yunnan. I like it because it's comfortable. Makes me feel so comfortable in the stomach. Doesn't have too strong of a taste. That was it. Everyone loved it. Because if you bring up too much expectations, one, how high of an expectation can someone have about tea when their only experience with tea is in a tea bag? It's not gonna, they can only go so high. So you have to slowly introduce them to this new world. But it's fun. I just followed that cup method, shared it with everyone, and everyone had a pleasant experience. No one was overwhelmed, no one was underwhelmed, no one was ecstatic. They had a 1 or 2 fun talking, oh, these are from older tea trees, haha, so tasty, move on. And then I said, if you ever like this tea or want to find this tea, please don't try to find it online. It's one of the most mislabeled, fraudulent produced teas in the world, haha. Just let your husband know and he'll come find me, I'll bring you some more. And that was it. And it was nice because I didn't put a lot of effort into something that wasn't going to be appreciated, but I still was able to share some really good tea with some people, and they all had a new, positive, pleasant experience. So, next time you think about sharing tea with someone new, think about that. Or watch that sharing tea video. It'll help a lot. That's the goal of tea. We might be crazy about it, but we want everyone to have a positive experience when they share it or drink it. And sometimes you just have to simplify it down to its core component of drinking a good cup of tea. There's that orchid aroma again. Alrighty, y'all. Thanks so much for joining me this Saturday morning. As always, you can always drop some comments below. Recap for today, feel free to check some eBay, use those tips from that teapot live stream about what to look for. You're not looking for pristine antiques, you're looking for mass-produced, not perfectly made antiques that are more on the affordable side. It increases your chances that they might be real, but it also increases the chances that you won't be spending a lot of money, and you can use things that are usable and applicable to your tea station. Just focus on things you like. Don't try to find perfect, pristine antiques. It's going to increase the risk that they're going to be fraudulent or overpaying for them. Also, you can check out new Lego botanical collection. It's crazy. They make flowers out of Legos. It's pretty cool. We'll be posting more and more videos once on the first of the month. Like every month, we'll continue to do that, of course. If you want to support this channel, see more pro content, feel free to join the YouTube subscriber or Patreon. And always feel free to reach out and ask questions. On that, y'all, Happy New Year. And I gotta get this kitty off my mat. But thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.